Hello and welcome to the show. Can you introduce yourself to our viewers?
Hi, my name is Cecilia. I'm 23 years old and I live here in Accra.
What do you do?
I am currently a pilot with African World Airlines. Yes.
So can you please tell us who a pilot is?
A pilot is somebody who flies an aircraft. Usually there are two pilots, one captain and one first officer. The first officer is junior and the captain is the senior.
Are you currently a first officer or?
Yes, I'm currently a first officer. I just started flying about a year and a half ago, and it takes a few years before you have enough experience and have gathered enough hours to become a captain.
Being a female pilot, what reactions do you get from people when you tell them you're a pilot?
Most people are they are very intrigued. They are also very shocked. They don't expect that. But mostly they are just impressed and they are amazed.
Do you ever wonder why they are surprised?
Yes, at times, because to me, I think people have that reaction generally for pilots, whether female or male. But I think people are more, they are more amazed that it's a female pilot, and sometimes I don't really get it because it's just, to me, it's just a regular thing.
So I noticed that some of the pilots' uniforms have 2 stripes, some have 3 stripes here, some have 4. What are the differences, and who wears 2, who wears 3, and who wears 4?
So usually in flight school you start with 1, and then for the company that I work for, a junior first officer, which is the most junior of the pilots, wears 2, which is what I'm wearing at the moment. And then after you've gained a bit of experience, you become a senior first officer. You then wear 3, and then once you make the captain, which is the most senior of the crew, then you wear 4. So the captain wears 4, and then the first officers wear either 2 or 3.
Okay, so now let's talk about flight schools. Where did you attend your flight school, and what were the processes you went through to gain admission, basically the requirements for flight school?
So I went to flight school in Norway, in Europe. I wrote an entrance exam, which was in English, math, logic, and a little bit of physics. It wasn't too much physics, which I didn't find too difficult. But I had a maths and science background from high school. So in high school I did, the 3 sciences. I did maths, I did e-maths, to build my foundation and get the experience that I needed.
Did you attend school in Ghana? I mean junior and senior high school, and if you did you ever hear science and math is not for girls?
Yes, I did. I attended primary in Ghana and then JSS and then SS. I started in Ghana but I completed SS outside. No, I don't think I ever heard. I was sometimes asked, are you sure this is what you want to do? But I never heard, oh no, this is not for girls. Maybe that was just me and how lucky I was to be in the schools that I went, but they didn't really emphasize that,
Apart from the exam, what other process did you go through to gain admission to flight school?
Well, they will look at your transcripts from your senior high school and see if they think it's something that is suitable for you, and if you meet their grade requirements. If you don't, then obviously you might have to go back and get better grades. Others.
Did you go through a medical?
Yes, we do go through a medical after the school. the school has accepted you. It's still based on if you get the medical certificate or not. So we had to go through an extensive medical. It was all everything with your body, your mind, your heart, your lungs, all of it, your eyes, your hearing, to check that you are fully fit to fly.
How did they test your mind?
Well, they just do it. It's just a very calm conversation. It's you sit down and have a chat with the doctor. You won't even know that they are testing your mind. It doesn't. It's all regular questions. It's just based on how you answer the questions that might alert the doctor if you aren't. You might be having some mental problems, some issues, maybe some disorders or something like that.
Okay, so I read that they require a certain height.
Yes, they do. They do. That was never really. I never actually looked into that because I'm quite average height, so that wasn't really an issue for me. But yes, you have to in order to be able to. An aircraft can be quite big, and a cockpit can be quite big. So in order to be able to reach everywhere, you have to be of a certain height, but at the same time, you shouldn't be too tall, so that you can fit comfortably into the aircraft.
Okay, so recently there have been a lot of advocacy for more girls to take up careers in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And my question is it necessary? Because if you go to primary, junior, and senior high school, you have the same number or even more girls in the class, and they all have the same teacher teaching them science and math. But at the end of the day, it's the boys who decide to do the math and the science courses, and then the ladies go in for other courses so why do we have to advocate for? I mean, nobody is prohibiting girls from pursuing science and math, so why do we all have to advocate for girls to do this?
I think naturally boys have more of an affinity for the science and maths, not necessarily maths. I feel like maths is something that everyone can study and something that everyone can understand. But the sciences, because of the nature of how boys grow up, they are much more playful, they are much more outside. Girls are brought up to be very serious and very helping in the house. I think that contributes to so most people see that boys have more of an affinity for science and maths, but I really don't believe and think that that's true. I think that both girls and boys have equal opportunities and are equally prepared to learn, whether it's science and maths or social studies or anything.
How many mates did you have in flight school and how many were girls?
We were 18 when we started. Out of those 18, we were 3 girls.
Just like me.
Yeah, that's including me. We were just 3. Yes. So in flight school, we were about 10% were girls in the whole school. So we weren't too many girls, but.
Did they fail the exams or they didn't apply at all, the girls?
I think a lot just didn't apply. It's not, most girls, flying is never seen as an option. When you meet young boys, the younger boys, they say, oh yeah, when they grow up, they want to be a pilot. You don't meet a lot of girls that say they want to be pilots. It's never an option that's brought up to girls. Plus, I don't think it's something that you have to want to become a pilot, and maybe not so many girls always want to, but I think the girls that do want to should be presented with the option and they should know that the option is there.
Did you always want to become a pilot?
No, I didn't.
So how did you end up becoming a pilot?
I didn't actually. I've always liked flying, but I never knew that I had the option of becoming a pilot. I never thought that I'd become a pilot until I was about 15. That's when I learned that there are flight schools. You can, and anyone can become a pilot, or almost anyone. So that's when I started looking into it, and I became more and more interested. So that's how I started then pursuing and seeing how I could go about becoming a pilot.
Did your parents ever discourage you?
Yes, a little bit. Because when I wanted to start flight school, I was quite young. I had just finished high school. I was 18. And flight school is very intensive, but it only runs for 2 years. So by the time I'd be done, I've been 20, 21. And a young age, you usually see only older pilots. You see, these older men as pilots. So at a point, I was discouraged a little bit and said that if it was really something I wanted to do, I should wait a few years and become a little older. Yes.
So how long did you wait?
I waited 1 year and then I went to flight school. Yes. So I was still 21 when I finished flight school and quite young. But that didn't affect anything.
How was flight school?
So flight school was very intensive. We would be in school, almost the whole year. We'd have maybe 5 weeks off in a year. So it was very, very intensive, and you had to study a lot. It was a lot of subjects. We covered 14 subjects in 2 years, or less than 2 years actually. And so you have to work very hard. You have to be very disciplined. You have to be able to motivate yourself and find your own ways of doing things. Some of the subjects were easier than others, as all schools are, and you find your favorite subject, you find what you love to study, and then at the end of a study session you are rewarded because you get to go out and fly. So you work hard because you know that at the point you'll get to go out and fly. So that was my reward in flight school, that I'd get to go and fly.
Okay, so for those of us who are not pilots, we see it as an interesting job, if I should use that word. You get to travel to so many countries, and is it interesting to you? You are on the field, so you should tell us what it's like.
Yes, it is very interesting. No day is the same, but just like any other job, it becomes your job. It becomes, a daily thing, a habit. So it never loses. I never lose interest in it, but at times it becomes, just part of your daily routine. As for the traveling, yes, I love, getting to travel. We don't always see new places because, depending on the airline you are employed for, you have your routes. And usually after you've worked for a year, you've been to all the places that your airline flies to. And so you never really get to see new places that often, unless, a new route comes up or you get to go and explore the city that you're in at a point in time, which I really love. I like that part of the job.
It must be interesting then.
Yes, it is interesting, and it's very interesting when no day is the same.
So how do you identify your routes in the sky?
So we fly GPS.
So do you do any calculations in the sky, and what kind?
Oh yes, we do a lot of calculations. So an aircraft is dependent on its weight and its speed. How if an aircraft will fly or not is dependent on the weight and the speed. So you have to do all sorts of calculations. In terms of weight, we do a calculation on all the passengers, all the crew, all the luggage that the passengers have brought, all the food and drinks that we bring on board the aircraft. All of this is taken into account. And then the fuel we uplift is also, it also adds weight to the aircraft. So we take all of that into account account, we do a certain calculation, and based on those calculations, we come out with a weight, and then we have speeds set for certain weights. So then we set the speeds for the aircraft, what speed we are supposed to take off at, what speed we are supposed to land at, what speed we are supposed to cruise at in level flight. Is all dependent on our weight. And then we do fuel calculations both on ground and en route to check that we have enough fuel for our flight. We have enough fuel if we cannot land at our destination and we have to fly back. We have fuel if we can't land immediately, so we have to do a holding in the sky.
That's a lot of maths.
It's very quick maths. It's not the most complicated maths.
Okay, so what I would like you to do now is to encourage the young girls out there who feel that science, maths, engineering, and technology is difficult. You are doing it. That means any other girl can do it, right?
Well, I just want to say that if it's your passion and if you love it and you enjoy doing it, nothing should stop you. Keep at it, even when it's tough, it's difficult, even when people say, discouraging things. Keep at it, because if you truly love it and you're truly passionate about it, in the end it will pay off. And you'll get to do what you love to do.
And then one last thing, kindly recommend any websites for girls who want to fly. Are there any books or websites that when they read will help them?
So I don't know too many books or websites, but then there are a few aviation websites, both for aviation enthusiasts as well as aviation professionals, where they talk about new aircraft, they talk about aircraft malfunctions, they talk about different routes, all the newest inventions within aviation and aviation technology. There are quite a few of those websites online, and then YouTube is a great place. You can find all sorts of aviation videos from pilots that film during their flight, their takeoff, their landings. You get to see a lot of beautiful places, and YouTube, and people that talk about how they went through flight school, how they find their daily lives, the daily life of a pilot. You see all sorts of all aspects of a pilot's life.
Okay, so thank you very much for joining us, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for letting me be an inspiration to others.